13 Questions by Mantranscending. Manhood in the Digital Age.
This week on 13 Questions, we're going to be chatting with Adam Mathews from the Foreplay Sex Radio podcast, which I was listening to for a while. Of course, we interviewed Lori Watson on our other podcast, the Gramerica Show, and she put us in touch with Adam, who was nice enough to come on the 13 Questions podcast and interview with Adam. And Adam. Interesting dynamic. And I actually haven't listened to it yet, but I've listened to a lot of Adam on his other podcast, Foreplay Sex Radio, and I know that he's an extremely well thought out individual. I'm sure his answers are fantastic. I'm looking forward to listening to him. Also, a good reason to sign up this week, get Adam's extensions, his bonus 7 questions, which we've locked in now at 7 questions instead of 5. So you get his bonus 7 questions. You also get the other 25 shows that have been out. You'll instantly get access to the new RSS feed, which will give you the extended versions of all of those podcasts. And you're instantly going to get access to our communication courses from our partner, TJ Walker. We've currently got 5 of his courses totaling a couple $100 in value, over 100 hours in content. And that's all free. As soon as you sign up for your $7 a month or your $77 a year, you instantly get access to all that. You instantly get access to the extensions of the back catalog. Any bonus podcasts that we decide to pop out, you can get our weekly newsletter from our staff with journaling prompts for self-discovery and personal growth, should you decide to do so. And then you also get, like Stevie did a couple weeks ago, you get to start popping out your own episodes of 13 Questions if you like. If maybe you got a brother or a cousin or a friend or an uncle, father, grandfather, boss, mentor, someone who you think could use there's maybe some of their knowledge or their wisdom to be put on the internet in a special place where it can be looked back on forever and immortalized in a certain way and given to the people so that wisdom can go out to everyone instead of just you. Then sign up for a member. We'll guide you through the process of recording your own shows, and we'll help you out with all that, and we'll get you to the point where your show is getting released into our feed and you become a part of the team.
Right on. So Dr. Adam Mathews is a licensed marriage and family therapist and a licensed professional counselor, and he's the owner of Mathews Counseling. He's also an American Association of Marriage and Family Therapists clinical fellow and supervisor, and he's helped hundreds of couples solve desperate marital problems, including sexual difficulties, to find happiness again. So he focuses on the client-counselor relationship. And he enjoys working with couples and individuals navigating the ups and downs of relationships, particularly couples who are trying to recover a love and passion for each other that they had when they first got together. That's the big challenge, eh? Maybe you're dealing with the aftermath of an affair or infidelity, or you and your partner just cannot seem to stop fighting, and you both are finding it difficult to understand each other. Geez, I think I know somebody who's going through this. I think I might try and hook them up with this guy. On a more personal note, he enjoys spending time with his wife and 3 beautiful and wonderfully crazy children. He likes to travel and spend time outside and seek adventure wherever they can find it. He likes to run road races for some unknown reason, and coffee is his spirit animal. And it's even better if he's enjoying it with a friend or family member. In general, he wants to enjoy life as much as he can, and he loves what he gets to do every day and the people he gets to do it with.
There you have it. Like I say, it's definitely worth going over and checking out their podcast if you haven't yet. Especially, I think this community here would really enjoy it. Foreplay Sex Radio. We'll put the link in the... No, we won't. foreplaysexradio.com is the website. Check it out. They got a pretty extensive back catalog. It's a good one. You can kind of poke through and pick out at the subjects that stick out of you and start there. That's kind of what I did. I went into their back catalog, and I sort of picked this and that and the other, sort of just went like that, took that approach at it. Anything else?
That's about it.
I think that's about it. Again, do consider signing up today at 13questionspodcast.com. Head over there, sign up for a monthly. Like I say, you get access to all those great things out of the gate. We were at a conference last week, so we missed a couple shows, but we're back in the swing of things this week. And like I say, there's about 25 shows in the back catalog. You get the extensions to all of those, access to the forums and the Discord and communications courses and all that stuff. It's definitely worth checking out. At the very least, head over to 13questionspodcast.com. Check out what's there. See what you like, see what you don't. And more than anything, enjoy these fantastic answers from Mr. Adam Mathews.
All right, so you ready to jump on into this, Dr. Mathews?
Absolutely. Let's go.
All right. So today we have Dr. Mathews for 13 questions. We're going to do 13 insightful questions. Then we're going to do a bonus round and then kind of talk about the experience and see, what Adam thought of it. So, Adam, first question.
Yes, sir.
What was the best advice ever given to you? And would you modify it at all today?
Oh, yeah, man. This was a hard one. Just thinking back through my father's advice that stands out a lot is he's told me, but it's kind of ridiculous advice. He told me to not go to the bathroom in front of my spouse. That was advice he gave me before I got married. But the more probably serious one that I carry around with me day to day is it's advice, but it's also just a saying. I had one of my mentors who I worked with for a long time. She would tell me, we'd come to her with problems. She'd always begin by saying, it's not rocket science. And her point of that was, that most of stuff in life is stuff you can learn. It's not something that's innate in us. That's something that, we just come with and we either can do it or can't do it. It's more that it's a learning process and it's something that you can figure out. So that's probably the best advice that I got. I don't know that I would modify it much today because I think it still holds true for most of my life. That idea.
Yeah, I like it. Either it's not rocket science or maybe you're overthinking it. It's good advice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What was the most important lesson you learned from your parents?
My parents, were the main thing was about not giving up. It was about resilience. My dad would often talk to me about stuff. This would be mostly in context of sports, that I played when I was little, about trying to, just not stop. And so, especially when things, got you down or there was failure. And so that really bled over into other aspects of life as well. But really about just not stopping, not giving up. Some Jimmy V advice from the kind of stuff. So
is that something that you kind of took forward into the profession that you've done now? Because you've kind of, you're not down the narrow, the standard road. You're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
You're kind of leading those things, which isn't standard for somebody in your profession. So
yeah, I mean, I think if you combine those two, it's not rocket science and the resilience of the not giving up part. I mean, it's always just been, I see things as possible, even if there's stuff that's going to possibly be failure. I kind of welcome it more in life, and so in practice, therapy was one of those things because I never thought I would be doing that. I never thought that it would be something that I would do on a regular basis, because I tend to have my hands in a lot of different pots. So then when my business kind of took off and there was a lot of there was other opportunities, like the podcast was just an opportunity that was presented to me. I didn't really go seek it out. And it was like, this was the next thing. And it was nerve wracking and it was kind of terrifying. Kind of wondering, could I do this? And so the idea, I can, and that I can figure it out. And I'm not going to just settle. I'm not going to just stop when there's adversity that comes in that. Cause there was a lot of challenges with all of those things, with our business, with podcasts, with teaching, all that presented specific challenges that we were able to kind of work through.
Awesome. What book has been most influential on your life and why? And it's okay if you have more than one book, because I don't think we've had a guest that can stick to just one book.
I couldn't. I tried really hard to just think of just what was the one book, but there's so many, man. I really believe that kind of reading is vital to life, and so There's some that have been more recent. Daring Greatly by Brene Brown is something I tell everybody they have to read if you haven't read it. Everything by her is great, but Daring Greatly was my personal favorite. There's spiritually speaking, there's a book called The Furious Longing of God by Brennan Manning, who's one of my favorite authors, and that book was just crucial in like self-acceptance and learning to kind of value myself, which is really, Daring Greatly was similar, but Daring Greatly was more about kind of addressing how the armor that we put up in between each other and in relationships and how to kind of identify that and take that down, which is fantastic. In kind of leadership modes, like there's a book called Switch by Dan and Chip Heath, which is just kind of revolutionized how to motivate my thinking about how to motivate people. As from just my employees to people that in other groups that I have influence over, like at all, like it's just helped me think through how to do that. And then recently too, it came out in 2015, but I didn't read it until last year, I guess, was Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me, about his experience growing up Black and the systemic racism he faced. And it was just, it's a really hard book to read, but I think was completely necessary for me to really start to understand particularly what's going on in that regard today. So all those are the four I would pick, but I think I could talk forever about different books because I feel like there's just so many for me.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it's better than somebody who, doesn't have those influential, outer aspects coming in and changing their points of view, which is what I love when you read something and, it fundamentally gives you the tools to view the world in a different way and, being able to share that knowledge with other people. Anyways. So.
Yeah. Well, I think too, it's like I think in that regards, like I didn't read books that had from people that were different than me or different voices for a long time. And just only in the last few years have I started to do that more. And that has been even people that I would probably disagree with strongly. Just that diversity of voices has just been super helpful.
What daily habits or rituals do you have? And do you recommend them for others?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I think I'm more of a creature of habit than not. And so the main ones for me is, I work out, do some kind of exercise every day, and I do it in the morning. That to me has been vital to just start my day well. I'm a different place than maybe some people. I have little kids, and so they're up early anyway. And so having that time is kind of just more my alone time than anything. And then the other thing I say is I set my priorities every day pretty early. I use there's lots of them out there, but I use something called by StoryBrand. It's called the StoryBrand Productivity Schedule, but there's a ton of these schedulers out there that just have you walk through what's your priorities for the day, how you're going to keep you from getting distracted, that kind of thing. And then I nap every single day. So 30 minutes at least, man. I feel sleep is vital to me. If I don't get that rest, then I'm dragging, man.
Oh yeah. It's amazing what the research shows that, you can have like reaction times that are 60% more, 30% less, ability to like do muscle lifting. It's, when you're taking your body down like that, you're working at half horsepower.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So that one to me is like this one most people skip, I think, but even just powering down, nothing coming in, no inputs coming in, just allowing my brain to rest is important.
If I were to ask your best friend, what is the one thing they would say you need to work on the most and why?
Yeah. That answer would be different if I'm saying my best friend as my wife or my best guy friend. I would think both of them would probably actually say the same thing, is that they would tell me that I'm not as responsible for others as I think I am, particularly for other people's reactions. So I can take other people's reactions pretty personally. especially just as a therapist, as I often feel like it's my job to help, and so they have to rein me in from taking that too far and taking responsibility for other people.
Well, I can see why that'd
And
be
it's
hard, though, because you're also reading people because you need to get more information
yeah,
when they're a little defensive. So you're always
that's
using that
right.
extra tool, and it's hard to turn that off once you've flipped it on and you have to use it.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I can see why that would be just a personal challenge to get through.
yeah, absolutely. But it's getting better. I'm getting better, I think. At least I hope they would say that.
What are you most curious about?
Oh man, relationships. That was the easiest one. That's what I'm a relational therapist, and so even when I have individuals that come in, I'm doing more about their relationships and how their relationships are influencing those. I think it's those things are especially in the beginning, our beginning relationships with our parents and our relationships with our environment and our relationships um, with the people around us, with our coworkers, with our friends, like all of those things with our partners. Like they just fascinate me, and I feel like they're just so influential. And so learning more and more about those is something that I'm pretty passionate about. And wanting to understand those dynamics that happen. Because it's every day, right? I mean, for most people, there's not a day goes by that they don't interact with somebody or are influenced by one of those relationships.
That's interesting. In that field, is there any I don't want to say like improvement, but are there new things being learned and tried? And is it one of those things that, therapists are getting better over at time on what works best for positive aspects of relationships between people? Or is this one of those things that's so fluid that it's individualistic?
Oh no, man! Like, yeah, there's tons of stuff being learned every day. I mean, they're starting to put it. For a long time, there probably wasn't. It was probably it was more of a pseudoscience. But now there's tons of stuff about attachment theory that's coming out about how much that shapes us and how like our need for safety and security in our relationships really defines how we act and what we do, what we get anxious about. There's a lot now about John Gottman's doing a lot of work, has been for years and years, for decades, about what makes committed relationships work, what makes marriages work, and so all of that's kind of being a little more codified. And so if therapists aren't paying attention to it, they're not doing a good job. But in those ways, like those two things in particular, are what's really shaping the field, and it's really really interesting. It's really interesting stuff if you're into that. Sue Johnson's wrote a lot of books about attachment, and several other people have as well. But the idea that how safe and secure we felt in our relationships are and from birth really kind of start to kind of stay with us and define our adult relationships. Like that whole shift is beginning to think like that is really kind of revolutionary to working with people.
Well, yeah, I imagine because, in the 50s and 60s, they didn't even consider babies to be, feeling pain and wouldn't use antiseptics and stuff. So that's a huge switch to be taking the memory back all the way to tracing your behavior.
Yeah,
That's
and people
awesome.
really discount that a lot. I mean, they discount that kind of attachment in the beginning, and and so we're starting to come out and starting to have more realization about it and starting to put a lot more importance on it, which is super helpful.
What was the most embarrassing or humiliating experience of your life?
Oh man, this one I have some, but they're like childhood stuff. I don't know if that's what people normally talk about, but like because I don't tend to get embarrassed pretty easily. Humiliated. I had a speech that I gave to a group of people probably about a month ago, and I just was not able to prepare the way I wanted to, and I completely bombed it. That was humiliating from the standpoint of like I hate when I fail at stuff. Like it's just I'm super type A, unfortunately, and so like to my detriment. And so it that was those are humiliating experiences. I mean, I've had several of those when just haven't felt like I've done the best that I could do. Um, I had like some incidences like in school where I played athletics because I thought that was what I was supposed to do. I played sports, but I'm really bad at it. I'm really horrible at it. And so they like there's tons of stuff like in that whole genre where I could talk about like times where I played soccer and they had this game that we would play to warm up where everybody would get in a ring and we'd kick the ball to each other, and whoever dropped it had to go like stand against the wall and bend over while everybody kicked soccer balls at you. Like that kind of stuff was like humiliating to me. And so I just fixed that by I don't play sports anymore. I don't play sports anymore. I just run. That's how I fix it.
Well, hopefully this doesn't interfere with your next question. What is your greatest fear, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I mean, I think there's some like there's some ridiculous stuff, that irrational fears that I have, like heights and snakes and clowns. Like I will never see it. There's an It sequel too. I'm like, I don't understand that. I would never see that. Honestly, I was just talking about like my biggest fear is just not being successful. And that is early on. I think I defined that poorly. And so how I fixed it was I've had to, especially in the last few years, just redefine what I consider success to be. I think doing therapy, it can be, and counseling, it can be really hard to say if I define success as everybody has a 360 or 180 degree turnaround, and everything's good with them again by the time they're done with me, then I feel like a failure a whole lot, because it's a high high bar to clear. And so success has more become that I'm present with people, that I'm authentic, that I am I'm just showing up really, with everything that I got when I'm with people, right? And so in that sense, I can be, when I redefine what success is for me, it's not just lowering the bar, but it's true success, and it's something that more often than not, it creates opportunities for good things to happen.
I like it. Yeah, you might not fix the person in the relationship, but you might have left things behind that propagate. You calmed some of the waves, kept them from crashing over the bow. So, and that goes out past them. They might get into another situation that could have been much worse because they didn't have knowledge or a thought or something to kick back to. So even in failure, you can have great success, but you would never see it. You would never even be able to know.
That's right. It's very rare that people come back and thank their therapist. It's more often than not, when they're done, they just stop coming, and you're kind of left to wonder. But even more than that, man, I think too, it's like it's redefining success as opposed to what I'm doing as to who I am and what I'm becoming. It's more internal, and so like the more that I'm growing and I'm being fully myself and being transparent and real with people. Like when I do that, then that it's more. It's honestly like I can't control everything that happens to me. I honestly can't control much of my success. Because there's all kinds of circumstances and context that goes into it that I'm not aware of or I'm not in control of. But that is like I can do that always.
What quality do you most admire in a man, and why?
Oh man, I really admire men who don't have to prove their manhood all the time. That are. And I think this shows up in the more men that have emotional depth. Most of the time, I find are the ones that don't have to do that. That are okay with embracing their emotional side, and kind of it's not necessarily that they cry, but they're not afraid of it. Like that. It's those kind of things that I most admire in men. And it's a not having to every day just kind of say, I have to prove my manhood to you, or show you why I'm good, or those kind of things. Like it's more grounded, it's more real. They've already answered that question for themselves. I think you can tell. I think most guys can tell when people are like that. It makes me relax. Makes me feel like I don't have to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's what you see in a lot of fighters. They're very calm, rational, nice people because they get choked out all the time. They get pulled between an inch of their life. They know what other people can do to them, and they're also competent with what they can do. So, they don't feel the need to do anything. They're cautious, not
Yeah,
because they can't, but because they can. Yeah, I love
yeah,
that feature in people.
yeah. Me too.
Who are your role models and why?
I think my father is one. I think um, I think he showed up all the time. He was pretty consistent in that. He has his flaws like any other guy, but he was pretty consistent in showing up for me, showing up not just to my events, but when I needed him. He would show up all the time. The other one was a basketball coach I had in eighth grade, who, like I said, like I am not a natural athlete, but he made space for me and like believed in me and like um, just really felt like I had I tended to define everything by whether I was good at sports and growing up because that's just what all the other guys did. And so if he hadn't done that, I would just felt like I'd have felt terrible about myself all through high school. But he worked with me really one on one and helped me kind of was real patient with me. But people like that that really have that belief in who I am have always been people that I'm attracted to. I think that's just an attractional quality in people, and so those men have been the ones that I've kind of connected with the most. And he was one early on.
Awesome. What institution of society or structural aspect of modern life would you change given the chance?
Oh, dude. So if you're like, so this is like if I could, the genie wish type of thing, if I could just start like messing with everything, if I was in charge.
Yeah, yeah, but it also kind of gives you a window back to, really where you think, a node of problems come from in our society. So I love it as a hypothetical because even by answering the question as a God figure, it might give us insights into how we would really, structurally or even, through interactions, facilitate it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the obvious one to me is I don't think anybody thought through or understood the implications of internet and social connectivity, right? I mean, I'm not just blaming social media, but the implications about what that has done to us as a society. And there's a couple things that stand out to me, man, that it's done is just the comparison game that it just gets us into all the time of like being able to look at other people. We're so connected to people. I mean, in that way that we can just see all their successes and what they're doing. And so that comparison game just really hurts relationships, I think. And it puts us into this idea, particularly, I mean, for me as a guy, I don't know if you experience this of like feeling like I have to work all the time. It's like that idea of the hustle, like that. It's constant, man. Cause you can see what other people are doing all the time.
Yeah, you're looking at the best of the best, the high energy hustler that doesn't stop. But when you have, 100 of those in America, if you're watching all 100, it seems like it's everybody.
Yeah, it seems like everybody has not just one job. They have side hustles, and they have, they're working. It seems like all of a sudden everybody that's those top performers, like they're talking about how they only get like 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night, and they like, they're always innovating, they're always doing new stuff, and so it gets us into this comparison game that I think it doesn't allow us to slow down. It doesn't feel like it doesn't give us permission to slow down. Maybe that's a better way to say it. And so it's like a constant moving target of what we're supposed to be hitting. And so for me, that just if we could redo that somehow, if we could have an idea about what those implications are, or just try to fight back. I don't think I would dismantle social media. or
No, but you could change
the internet.
you could change the
Right.
incentives because it's
Yeah,
terrifying that, the incentive is more clicks. Well,
that's
you
right.
can goat somebody into a fight. You can, make people more aggressive. And especially when you get to the fact that being exposed to those types of things can actually have physical changes in the brain that are non-reversible.
Right.
We start getting into these really weird changes that, simple, how we decide that we're going to make money off of this thing, changes who we are completely.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is altering in that way too, and it's so like our success is so measurable, right? It's the number of likes, it's number of clicks, it's we can actually quantify it, and so that kind of it hits that pleasure center, man. Or like every time I see somebody click, or every time I see somebody like, it's like it's just going up, and that becomes it's just a false standard of success, and so it's hard to break. Yeah. And so like, if we could change that somehow, like I think that would be really helpful.
I love that answer. What is the most courageous thing you have ever done or seen in your life?
Oh man. Done. I would have to say I went skydiving for my 40th birthday. That was absolutely terrifying. But did it anyway, all the way up. I got a guy that I went tandem, and the instructor, man, he kept whispering to me about how, like, he kept messing with me the whole time about how he'd never done it before, and this was his first time, all kinds of nonsense like that, freaking me out the whole plane ride up. The thing the bravest thing I see, I mean, I witness it, if not every day, often, is when people just show up for each other in my room, man. Like, I had a guy tell his wife the other day, it was a moment where we'd worked to get to for a long time, where he was just really vulnerable with her, and told her how scared he was that she was going to reject him if he opened up and really told her how much he loved her. Like, and it's just him articulating that was just it was an act of bravery. It was courage. Brené Brown talks about, like, vulnerability requires courage, and it's a big risk. And so anytime people in relationship with each other are vulnerable, I think that's one of the bravest things that we do, when we are able to kind of articulate, like, I need you, or this is even this friendship isn't with, not just in romantic relationships, but with people that matter to us. So I care about you. I need you in my life. This is important to me. These are my fears. These are my hopes. These are my dreams. When we're able to really talk like that with each other, and connect in that way, I just don't know. I know a few things that are more brave than that.
Awesome. That's really cool that you get to see it, because the more that you're around those things, that, when you see other people able to do that, it makes it easier for yourself to stick to that. That's kind of a cool thing to be able to be around.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What rule do you have for yourself that you never break, and why do you think that is important?
Man, I never, until you asked this question, I had not, like, I hadn't thought like this before. But I think I think it would probably have to be that I don't press send when I'm emotional. When I'm like on anything, and on the text message, on the post, on the email, like I don't do that. I've failed at that before. I've done that before, and I just made the determination, like, if I'm worked up, and I can get worked up pretty easily, especially on social media, man, on Facebook, when people are posting stuff, especially since, in the current climate that we're in, where everything feels so polarized, I can get worked up really fast. And so I find if I wait 24 hours, I give myself 24 hours to kind of think about it, and see where I'm at. I may still go back and revisit it, and I still may post the same thing, but I'm not going to do it when in the height of emotion, where I want to punch back really fast, or I want to eviscerate somebody with words. Like I just can't. I can't do that, because it always drives disconnection rather than connection.
Oh yeah,
when I do it that way.
It's crazy how the emotion turns into almost a different person until you step back and reevaluate yourself and go, man, I wrote that, I did. All right.
That's right.
This is a more measured way to respond. I don't want to do that. It's such a valuable thing to do. And especially in today's world, it's so fast paced that some people don't even feel they have the time to let the email slip because there's 100 more behind it that got to get taken care of. Then you
That's
just get
right.
the cycle of just fast paced aggression.
Well, and it just doesn't feel, it can feel anonymous, right? It can feel like there's no consequences to it because of the medium. If it's different, and it's ways that I would never respond if I was face to face with somebody, or if they were in the room with me, or I could hear their voice. Like, it's just so different. And so if I don't take that time, I know I'm like, it is the equivalent of punching them in the face in a conversation. Like it's an emotional punch that I would never throw in real life. And so, like, I have to regulate that in myself, even though it feels good. It feels good. What I'm saying feels good right up until the moment I press send. And then when I do that, like, and all of that, it just feels horrible. It's disconnecting. It's terrible.
That has to terribly complicate your dealing with relationships with people in your office, because in text messages, you get that disconnect and then the personal disconnect. And then there's a record of you said this, and it's like, well, I didn't mean that. So yeah, that's.
Oh man. Do you know, that's my number one rule for people, man. If I could have every couple in America do one thing, it would be not to fight over text message. Like, there's so many people that come in and they're talking to me about this fight that they're having. And I go, well, what's happened? It was like, well, I can show you. Like, and they try to, like, prove what was said back and forth, but it's a horrible medium to fight in. And so that's like one of my rules is when I'm working with couples is, if you want to work with me, like, you have to stop texting and fighting at the same time. Get in front of each other. Because it'll go much, much better. Even if you have a horrible blow-up fight, it's going to be better than having it in text message.
I like it. Well, Adam, that's the end of the 13 questions. So we will come back for a bonus round. But I do really want to thank you for joining us so far. It's been, I don't know, I've enjoyed the interview. I hope you have too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, if you guys would like to know more or hear the bonus questions coming up, you can become a member and get access to the members feed plus the website. We also have $200 in communication courses over there by TJ Walker. We've got prompted writing exercises that you can have emailed out to you. And we've got community forums. And of course, like I said, we've got the questions coming right up. So thank you for joining. All right, bonus round. Adam? What would you tell your teenage self?
Buy Apple stock. I think I would tell my teenage self that to take more risk. Like, I feel like this is the cliched stuff. But it's true for me. Like, take more risk. Care less what other people think. Success is not what you think it is. I think those things are just like. I would have the specific advice, and that kind of culminates in all that is I wish my teenage self would have taken a year or two off between high school and college, I wish I'd taken a gap year. But all those things were kind of playing in my head as like I couldn't because I had to go straight to college.
I don't want no Hawaii. I don't want no Hawaii. Yo, what? I don't want no Hawaii. I don't want no Hawaii. Yo, what? I don't want no Hawaii. I don't want no Hawaii. Yo, what? I don't want no Hawaii. I don't want no Hawaii. Yo, what? I don't want no Hawaii. I don't want no Hawaii. Yo, what? I don't want no Hawaii. I don't want no Hawaii. Yo, what?
Why is one man rich and another man poor? Why we ain't satisfied? Why we gotta have more? Why your suicide rates on the rest so high? Why I tell you the truth but you say don't lie? Why is being a good father at an all-time low? Why is it acceptable? Yo, why? I don't know. Why she blame him and he blame her? It's useless. Ask yourself this question. Why you making excuses? Why do parents gotta bury their kids? Why we text and drive, not caring how scary it is? Why it's so hard to forgive and leave the past behind? And if you did, then that's the divine? Why don't you help your brother when you see him fall? Why do we act like God don't see it all? Why do we call them black, them white, them Asians and use labels? Now that's racism.
I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why? I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why? I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why? I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo,
Why is
why?
there innocent people locked up for life, while some people can't say nothing nice? Why do we always gotta question what all of it means? And why won't you follow your dreams? Tell me why. The night when you took my dad, why'd you let me see my grandpa cry? And tell me why. And why do you choose to hide, even though you was born to fly? And tell me why. And why don't we turn from all the hate? And why don't we learn from all mistakes? Why do I keep on wrecking these fat beats? And teachers don't make more than professional athletes? And why? And why? And why? And why? And why? And why?
I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why? I don't wanna Hawaii.
Why?
I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why? I don't wanna Hawaii. I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why? I don't wanna Hawaii. I don't wanna Hawaii. Yo, why?
This should be considered entertainment and not therapy. We hope you benefit from our resources available at 13questionspodcast.com. Thank you for listening.